And good evening and welcome to City Focus. I'm Marty Olsen, your host, and I'm, excuse me, delighted to welcome back Sarah Turner to the program. And for those who may not know her, she ran for school board this past fall. And she did such a terrific job, and I wanted to congratulate her and thank her for running. It's a chore, it's a lot of work, and I thought this would be a good platform for her where she could kind of share with us the ups and downs of the campaign and what she may have learned from it. Was it a good experience? Was it not a good experience? And perhaps if we have some time toward the back end of the program, we can delve into her future plans. So, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, Marty. It's always a pleasure to be on the show, and I always love having a platform to be able to share my opinions and experiences and what I'm looking to do. With the campaign, I never intended on running, like I said before. It was one of those things that just kind of happened this year. Maybe it was destiny. I was so involved with education and trying to make a change that's how I ended up on running for the board. And certainly I could have done a little more research prior to doing that, been a little more prepared, but I felt like I got the hang of it as we got, through the campaign season. And, I ran against several other candidates that, I really am hopeful for in this next coming Board of Ed season. And
they've got a 2-year term, so we've got them whether we like them or we don't.
Yes, that's very true. Very true. And, obviously I'd like to make some allies on the Board of Ed because I still have a kid that's in the school system. And obviously all this started because I was really motivated to make change for her and for her friends. And, it has been difficult between all the bickering back and forth between City Council, the Board of Ed. I know they had a joint meeting, the last Board of Ed meeting. They had a joint meeting where City Council and the mayor came and they talked about the plans for the budget and what the mayor would like to see for the next budget presentation. And after the long meeting went about and everyone shared their point of view, the end summary was what it was last year, pretty much, that
So no change.
No change. Well, there was a slight change. It was create a same services budget, and then also give us the numbers for cutting the after-school program, because apparently we have no extracurricular activities or budgeting in place right now, which I find that hard to believe, and I haven't had a chance to go back and review the budget, but I know last fiscal year, we didn't have enough after-school programs or budget for after-school programs at the high school. And so I made it my business to reach out to the district and say, hey, listen, what needs to get done? What are we waiting on? How can we expedite getting some funds in so that these kids could have, good extracurricular activities after school? And
and they're so important for so many different reasons. I mean, at a base level, just to have these activities for the students to engage themselves outside of school, outside of their school work, something that maybe is more fun. Maybe it's something that may be challenging. It could be a chess club to band. Or a service organization club, like the Key Club or the Rotary's Rotaract or whatever. Yeah. And there's so many different things that the kids could be engaged in. Of course, they need to have faculty advisors for all this stuff. They can't just take up a room and go.
Right.
They need adult supervision, for better or worse, at that age.
That's right.
And they may need a little bit of funding whether or not, and I'm not sure what the policy is, or the law for that matter, whether the advisors get a stipend or if they volunteer. You may know that better than I do.
Yeah, no, so some of them do volunteer their time, others do. There are several stipends that are outlined in the contracts that are available for teachers to partake in. Last year, I know that the district tends to not let it be well known that how some of the teachers can go about getting those stipends. So I did help facilitate help a teacher to access the stipend that she was due for doing the work that she did after school. But it's difficult as a parent and as a resident of New London to hear that, yes, extracurricular activities are really important for the kids. Colleges, if kids decide they want to go to college, I mean, they're going to need to have extracurriculars
well, that
on
looks
there.
good on their applications, that they've been active and proactive in and out of school.
That's right. And it shows their commitment. It gives them exposure to different people and different life experiences, different ways of thinking,
And
camaraderie.
things besides athletics.
Yes. Yes, and in addition
Not
to
everybody's
athletics.
an athlete.
That's right. They have like robotics club, culinary club, more than words. There are a lot of options at the high school for the kids. Marching band, which wasn't really an option this year. It was a mandate. But there are, options for kids to take. My one complaint would be this year that, there's just no one managing the schedule or the activities. So let me give you an example. So we have theater right now. We're in the theater season, and we're moving forward to our performance, which I think the first one is on December 3rd, 4th, and 5th at the high school. That will take place, and there should be something coming out on social media for that. It's a Wonderful Life is what they're doing. And then actually tomorrow, the United Theater.
Very seasonal.
Yes. Tomorrow, actually, and they didn't have an opportunity to really advertise this, but the Unified Theater at the high school campus is doing a performance tomorrow at 4:30 at New London High School. I'm not sure which one that is. I just heard about it tonight at the Marching Band Expo. So, but people can probably go onto the social media site and see what that is. It's free, 4:30 tomorrow at the high school campus.
Okay.
But back to what I was saying was, the kids stay after school for marching band from 3:30 to 5, and then they stay there from 5 to 8 to do theater. And they don't offer any type of food for the kids after school. And so to have the kids there not eating anything since lunch, but then be requiring that they stay that late, I think is a little bit, it's just not, and kids, they need to eat so they can learn, and they need to eat so that they can, play in sports and play in theater, and you can't not feed the kids. So many of the kids run down the street, and I think I've talked about in the past, all the kids going down to the fast food restaurants.
And that has been a problem as well. I mean, I don't know if the restaurants are open now when school lets out, but there was a period where they shut down because of problems.
That's right.
Where the kids were not behaving themselves.
That's right. And, we should just have the kids stay after school. Granted, if you ask the Board of Ed or anyone at the school, they'll say, well, it's due to flat funding. We just don't have any money to keep the school open. But we do have the school open, ironically, for these programs. So it kind of comes back to budget, right? Like, where are the line items for canceling out these activities or having these activities? What are the costs? What are the costs of creating a marching band? Can we afford to have that? We really had a problem with the budget this past year. When I had a conversation with the superintendent in the beginning of the summer, she said that she intends that we're going to start the next school year $5 million in a deficit.
$5 million.
$5 million. $5 million.
That's the school year that we're currently in.
No, she said for next year. So she was
okay,
already.
You said this past summer.
Right. Well, this summer she was meaning for this next summer because this budget had already been decided on. So she was saying for the next year, by the
Okay,
time
so
we get
we understand the timeline.
yes, we will be already 5 million in the hole. So, I mean, whether that's going to be the case or not, whether the state will come in with some extra funding, I'm not sure. I did hear that the state was in there yesterday doing an alliance review and a commissioners network review. I don't know what the outcome of those inspections were, but, you know, given past inspections, I would imagine that they just kind of push it through like they always do.
Well, you know, I love the fact that you're a hard charger. You were working so hard this past fall, and I would like to kind of get into, for part of our program, the experience that you had in terms of trying to achieve your goal of getting elected. I mean, getting elected in New London on the Republican ticket is daunting to begin with.
Yeah.
And you are actually a registered Democrat who was disenfranchised, if I'm understanding things correctly, and you came to the GOP looking at you might have a clean slate to articulate your concerns.
Yes.
And not be squeezed by all the BS going on in the Democratic Party.
That's right.
So you made a calculated decision to run in a minority party and change parties to do that.
That's right.
And did you find that over the course of, because when you get nominated, I think it's back in July,
Yeah.
that you're from that point when you made that decision, I'm going to do this. How was that experience? I mean, did you get the support you were expecting from the party? Did you get support from people within the party? How much money did it cost you to run your campaign? Did you have to dig into your pocket? Or did you just use whatever you were able to raise from outside, or maybe the party contributed to your campaign? Did you get good advice in terms of how to spend your money? I mean, there's all sorts of things that go into running a campaign to be successful. And the timeline from the nominations in July, it looks like it's forever until early November, but it's really done.
Yeah.
By the time you figure out what's going on, you know, it's election day.
That's right. Yeah. No, and it, you know, it was difficult. So when I, as I said, I didn't intend on running because I am so active in my child's life, and I'm in real estate, and I just have a lot of irons in the fire. And so I said, you know, I'm going to go get behind somebody I can believe in, right? I just need to get behind, I think I mentioned before on the show that Brian Dowdy was my go-to guy. And yeah, when he left, I lost my ally, and I tried to create new allies on the board, thinking that, you know, that there's got to be somebody on there that cares as much as Brian Dowdy does, or the way that he does. I shouldn't say as much, because that kind of communicates that others just don't care. I think that everyone obviously cares. No one goes into this volunteer position just because they don't care. I just think it's what you know and what you don't know, and how you are impacted by what's happening or what's not happening. You know, like if we have a representative for a school, I don't even know who the representative for the high school is, which Board of Ed member is the rep for the high school. I would expect to see that board member at all the events so that they know what's going on. I would expect to see them at the meetings with Mahan. I would expect to see them more engaged and active if they don't have kids in the school system, so that they could hear the heartbeat of what's really going on. You know, when you just go and sit at the Board of Ed meetings and you just get information from the administration or superintendent, you're not usually getting the whole story, because the people that are going to tell you what's going on are the kids, at least at the high school level. And so, you know, so I went to go get behind somebody I could believe in, didn't find anyone on the Democrat side. So then I went ahead and I called the Republicans, and I said, hey, can I come see who you guys have running for the Board of Ed? I'm a Democrat, but I'd like to come see who you guys have running for the Board of Ed. And I came, and at the time, I don't know if you guys had, I don't know if the Republicans had anyone yet. And after coming to that meeting, I felt that, you know, I don't know if I am all in on the Democrats anymore. At the time, it just seemed like there was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of, I've been trying to make change, and everyone I've been trying to make change with is a Democrat. And so how come my party's not representing me?
Well, that's because they're in office. I mean, when they're all Democrats, that's your choice.
That's right. And so, you know, that was the first time that I was like, wait a second, we need to have a minority. We need to have people running on the minority ticket to have some balance to what's going on here. So inevitably, I unaffiliated myself from all the parties, since I just felt like I wasn't one side or the other. And then, lo and behold, you know, the Republicans called me and said, hey, listen, you can, you know, remain unaffiliated, but we love what you have to say, and we love what you are doing. We'd love to have you run on our ticket. And so that's how I came about being on the Republican ticket. But it was, I never knew what to expect after that, you know, moment of high, like, yes, here it is, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna run. Then I had people like unfriending me on Facebook and social media. I had people actually texting me, telling me, you know, listen, I thought I knew you. I guess you're different. I need to cut all ties with you. I mean, it was really disheartening to think that because of a party that somebody is affiliated with, that people will just, you know, cut you off altogether. Like, I'm still the same person I've always been.
Yep.
I'm still the same advocate I've always been, just because I decided that I didn't want to, I wanted to go with a party that was willing to support me at the time.
But yeah, I'll tell you something. When you're running locally, actually probably for any office, but we're discussing local.
Right.
And I have certainly run locally numerous times. And I remember in one campaign where I was out knocking on doors, and I came to a house where I knew the owner, and she was working out in the yard. She was more interested in discussing with me Donald Trump at the time. I said, look, I'm running for local office. I'm running for city council.
Right.
I've got a track record here. Now, if you think that I can be a good representative for you in the city, please vote for me. And if you don't.
Yeah.
But the guy down in Washington is not having much of an effect on what's going on here locally. And you know, I don't know what she did. I mean, she tends to tack very far to the left, this particular gal. But you know, I've always, when I answer the phone, I don't ask your party affiliation.
Right.
What's your problem?
Right.
And can I help you?
That's right.
And I've had many people over time who've called me to help them out because they know I work hard to take care of them as best I can.
Well, listen, I was coming down to Ace Hardware all the time, hunting you down just to talk education with you. You know, I knew that you, and even though we weren't the same party at the time, I still came down there because I knew you were always a trusted advocate and voice, and that you could, you know, point me in the right direction.
And if you take that mindset, especially if you decide you're going to seek office in the future, do what's best for the schools, do what's best for the community. And if you don't worry about your party affiliation, things will fall into line. You know, you may upset some people and you may make some other people happy, but you know what? It's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Every decision you make when you're an elected official, somebody's going to be a little bit ticked off for one reason or another, whether you're in the same party or not.
Right.
You know, so you know you've got to, and you need to have a little bit of thick skin for those folks that will throw darts at you, and they will.
Yeah, they will.
And you just have to move along. You know, I mean, and if folks are willing to disassociate themselves from you, it's their loss, not yours.
Yeah. Well, I think like if we all just realize that we all have the same goal, right? Like if we have a shared goal, and the goal is that we want to see the best for the kids, why is it so hard to have a conversation? Or why is it so hard to make change as a community if we have the same goals at heart. That's the thing I left this whole election cycle thinking, that, if we want what's better, why is there all this fighting? Why is there all this pointing blame and this one did it or that one did it?
Look at all the fighting internally within the Democratic Party over this budget. This was a Democratic fight, purely. This was not Republicans weren't part of this.
Yeah.
Had nothing to gain or offer by interjecting into it. We're not there. They are. It's their job to make this thing work on our behalf. They've been elected to do that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a shame when they don't.
Well, it is, and it's hard again, right? So, like, as a Democrat before, I was very much guilty of doing what I was conditioned to do, right? It was, you go out and you vote all the way A, and that's what you do. And I am guilty as charged. That's what I did. I had no idea what it meant to vote, and I think that we should spend more time on that in schools. I think there is now an extra added requirement that they do teach kids about the election process while in school. But, I
know when Driscoll was teaching AP, I'll call it civics, he would invite me into his AP class to discuss local government.
Well, I think John Martin was too. I think John Martin taught government as well.
He did, but Driscoll specifically invited me into his courses.
Nice. That's nice.
It was every year, every other year. I forget now, but to get the brighter kids, and some of the kids would sleep through the class, and other kids were actively engaged, and that made it worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, I think we're at a time in the world with social media and all of the influence that people have from all over the world, and Donald Trump, and that kids are definitely much more engaged, I feel, when it comes to things that impact them. And so, do you have to make it exciting? Yeah, you have to find some way to relate to them. But, I know that, I must have taken a governance course at some point in time, and I guess it's like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I just wasn't ready to learn that yet until I experienced it for myself. But when after this campaign season, what I was left feeling was, why do we have 7 Democrats running for 7 seats? Why is that? I did try to go through like the city charter and look back into the Connecticut general statutes. I know that Lucian was on the show and brought that up as well. But there does seem to be something just not right about having, 7 Democrats running for 7 seats, because in the world that we live in, people are going to go out and do the same thing that I did, right? They're going to go out and they're just going to vote all the way A, because why? Because they think they're voting all the way A is going to influence what's happening on the national stage. And it's not going to influence anything on the national stage, because it's local politics. And there's a big difference. Even when I was outside standing at the poll places on the day of the election, I was standing out there with another woman who was there for Victoria. And we were talking, and she goes, "Oh, I would never vote Republican. I'd never do it." And I said, "Wait a second. Let's talk about this for a minute. I'm on the Republican ticket." And by the time we had about a 10-minute conversation, she goes, "I'd vote for you." Well, and so again, but I go back to, there is a couple, there's some members of the city council that I can call, and I can trust that if I call with a complaint, that something might get done, or the issue might get addressed. Others, they might listen to you once or twice, but there's no follow through. And so I did not want to see any more of that, right? I want people that are going to do something. You were elected in a position, and you should, have an obligation to.
This is where the lack of competition really rears its ugly head, because in New London and in many urban centers, which tend to vote Democratic nationally, is that if you know you're going to win, you're all you need to do is get nominated to the party's ticket,
Mm-hmm.
and you get a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really have to work too hard to achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And for the party, knowing that there's no competition, they don't have to necessarily nominate the sharpest tacks
Right.
to represent all of us.
Right.
So who are they nominating? I mean, is it political favors? Are they grooming people for different offices? What is motivating them to nominate who they do? I mean, I know our local school board has in recent election cycles nominated teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
which, with all due respect to the ones that were nominated and won, from where I sit, they're too young and immature for that position, although they are legally allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But in a community like New London, there was no challenge. There was nobody there to discuss that, or anything else for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is. It is. And it's hard as a parent, right? I'm just so in it right now. It's hard as a parent to see that these 7 people have the power to impact my kid's future, right? And it can make or break it. And to see that, the superintendent makes over $200,000 a year, gets a Mercedes-Benz, got her PhD on our dime, but you can't get her to hold a intelligent conversation about education. I mean, literally. I made a complaint in the school system last week. Someone was talking about promoting child labor, and I guess it was not really their intention to communicate what really child labor stands for. They were trying to talk about, like, we want our kids to be invested in their education, but there's a way to go about that and say it appropriately. So I brought it up with the superintendent. Listen, like, I think that we should be doing a better job bringing in partners and having them understand what our policies and procedures are and what they say impacts our students and the way that they feel about themselves. And superintendent came back after an investigation and just said, well, I found that basically the person didn't mean what they said. Okay, well, I mean, that doesn't give me any reassurance that what have we put in place to make sure it doesn't happen in the future? We had another situation like this just earlier in this school year, where there was a gentleman that came in, he was a motivational speaker, and he was in front of a bunch of kids and talked about some girl being raped. I mean, by her stepfather since the age of 9. My kid had to come home and tell me about that. And I'm like, wait a second, hang on, what's going on where we're not communicating?
What was the purpose of
context, right? Okay, I'll give you a little more context there, yes.
Why was this individual invited in to speak, into what class and for what purpose? I mean, what was the, was this, that seems startling.
Well, it is, and I still to this day don't know who it was that invited the person into the school. They were invited in to do a motivational speech for kids of the arts pathway, just the arts pathway. So parents weren't notified, the kids weren't notified, nobody knew about it. I don't even think I don't think the principal even knew about it. And, but they were pulled from class. The other kids in their classes were taking an exam. So my daughter was taking an exam, but only half the class had to leave to not finish their exam, while the other half got to stay because they weren't enrolled in arts. They got pulled to the auditorium, and then they had to sit through this this motivational talker that was saying things like, well, you never really know what somebody's going through. In life, sometimes it's just a fly, like brush it off. I mean, I understand what he was trying to communicate, but to then start bringing kids up in front of the rest of the student body, asking them to rap and sing, when they don't do it to your liking, you shoo them and sit them down to have another one come up. I mean, it just, again, I don't think that the speaker was intending to create any type of malice or harm, again, because he's just not informed, right, of what these actions or things can mean. But then he goes on to say, listen, you never really know what somebody's going through. He said, I was in a school recently, and there was this 15-year-old girl that was crying and crying and crying. And so I asked her, what's wrong? And she said, I've been being raped by my stepfather since I was 9. But I mean, you are talking to a whole bunch of kids. I mean, in that moment, I would expect that the people that are getting paid all the big bucks, that are standing up there at the school, whether that be the principal, the vice principal, the director of whoever it is, say, hang on a second, redirect the conversation maybe, right? And try to soften that up. But nobody did anything. They allowed it to go on. And then my daughter brought me home a recording of it. So then she's telling me this, and I can't really believe it. I'm like, no, this didn't really happen. She plays the video for me because the guy was saying, record, let's go live, let's go viral. So he was encouraging them to do it, so she did it. She thought it was the most bizarre thing. And she goes, Mom, I felt so uncomfortable. Like, how many of us were in there? Like, my God, what is he talking about?
How many young girls, teens, would want to be having this type of conversation in a public forum?
Right. That's right. And so...
Where's the counselor? Where's the sociologist or whomever is in the school who's supposed to be dealing with this type of stuff?
So I submitted my concerns in writing, and do you want to know? I got not a single response back. Nothing. Oh, all I got was, I'll go check to make sure your daughter's okay. Wait, but I asked, who brought the person in? What were the conditions in which they brought them in? And are you guys going to send out a notice saying, hey, listen, there was some maybe content that came up in a presentation that maybe wasn't quite appropriate or wasn't trauma informed? I mean, give us the right as parents to, respond and react with our kids in a way that we're informed of what's happening at the school. But they don't do that. They didn't send out, just like we got hacked recently. So the school system was hacked. There was phishing happening where they ended up shutting down all the emails. Now, mind you, I got one of those phishing emails, and the only reason why I didn't click on it is because I picked my kid up in that same moment, and she goes, Mom, the school got hacked. They had to shut down the emails. And so then I looked and I saw that it said something like, student grades, download this file. So I notified the school. Do you want to know? They said they were investigating it. They never reported it. I followed up a week later. I said, how many other parents weren't aware and clicked on it and potentially had their information stolen? Never reported any of it. But these are the people that we're paying $200,000 a year to, right? $200,000 a year, and they can't respond or react to just management. This is just management. Management liability. The school district could get sued if somebody was to be made aware that they were not informed after your system was hacked. I mean, does this sound unreasonable to you? I mean, I don't know. I must be living in an alternate reality.
No, it's bizarre. And this is where, as one who's run for office, and you may run again, I don't know, if you opt to, you'd still be a great candidate. But I mean, there's so much stuff, for lack of better words, stuff going on, whether it's in the schools or in the city, that it's almost overwhelming. You can't address it all.
That's right. At
the same time. And you have to pick and choose which battles you're going to fight, and who are you going to get latch on to kind of help support your position. You know, one of the first things that I learned, and I give credit to former Judge Bob Martin, who was a city councilor back in the mid-'80s when I was just getting started. He says, you have to learn to count to 4. And meaning that if you don't have 4 votes out of 7, whatever you think doesn't make any difference, because you lose. 4 votes wins, 3 votes loses. It's that simple. So if you can get up and yak and jump up and down and yell and scream and do cartwheels, but if you don't have any support, you're as they say, into the wind. And you have to understand that and know that, what are you doing? Are you trying to actually accomplish something here, or are you just making making noise to hope that other people will grab onto it. And that is very, very challenging to get other people to grab on. And there are times when folks will, and we may or may not like, but when it comes to the political parties, but if you're in a minority position, the majority may just blow you off because they don't want you to get credit for something good.
Right.
And they may or may not pick it up later, so they can attach their name to it and just kind of shove you off to the side. And and it takes a lot of work, and you know that because you're doing it. It's not a matter if you have done it; you are doing it.
Yeah.
And it can be exasperating. It can be frustrating. The paid administration and staff can send you down rabbit holes, and they know that they're doing that just to get you out of their room and.
That's
leave
so
us alone.
often. So often. That's exactly what it is. The rabbit hole. The rabbit hole. They will. I can't tell you how many freedom of information requests I've put in regarding our year-round calendar program. What is the cost of the year-round calendar program? What is the cost different from our regular budget? They won't give it to me. Every which way I ask it, they answer a question either I didn't ask or ask me more questions about it. It's not that complicated. We have a calendar that runs year-round that has childcare and extra educational services in the 2 weeks off. So they're on for 6 weeks, 2 weeks off. What is that costing us? Somebody's got to know what it's costing us. We're paying people, aren't we?
We are.
But apparently it's not for us to know. I did go to the city council meeting just 2 weeks ago, and I found a report at the State Department of, I don't know, it was the Connecticut grant report or something like that. And so I was looking at the amount of money that it said that we've received in New London as a district for the schools, and it was like 56 million or something like that. And I went to our budget, and our budget reported that we received 36 million.
That's a minor difference.
So I looked back year over year, and there are some discrepancies. And we were just getting ready the board had requested the $2.5 million out of the non-lapsing fund to use it towards transportation. They had put a line item together for transportation. But then we had just received from the state like $538,000 for magnet transportation. But we were still asking for that $2.5 million to pay for transportation, but we did not. I mean, so again, the whole accounting, the accounting is off, something's not right. I asked the question, no one is willing to answer the question.
When things are going to embarrass the district, I can tell you, or the city for that matter, either or, the administration digs in their heels. I mean, they can make things exceptionally challenging to get information or proper information. I mean, where it may be relatively simple to get, but if it's going to be make them or the city look bad, they won't do it. I mean, they'll fight it and try to make you, not you specifically,
yeah.
but whomever is inquiring, to be the bad guy.
Yeah. How
dare you ask these questions?
Right.
You're challenging us in our veracity and our honesty, and that we're not doing our jobs, and they don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I just, it clearly it becomes a much bigger issue because you start following the money, and then you see that it's not all accounted for, and that's a whole nother beast all of itself. All at this point, I can say that I really just want is for my kid to feel safe at school, for me to feel safe sending my kid to school, to feel like the people that we are paying to be there in our absence are doing their jobs the way it's written in the policies and the procedures, and as overseen by the Board of Education, and I can say it doesn't feel that way. I mean, I was sitting in the meeting with Mahan this morning with another parent and a grandparent, and they were both very concerned for the state of our education. The other parent said, listen, I have one kid that goes to Ledyard and one kid that I have here, and I came for the tour and it seemed like this school was going to be great, and we're just a couple months into the school year and I am having a terrible experience. This is nothing like what they said it was going to be.
And what was the response?
There was no response other than, well, you know, we are looking to start a PTO. So of course I raised the question, well, we really need a school governance council because it's required by the state. But they being, well, the principal was there today, but the principal responded that, well, we just don't have enough interest in the school governance council. And I was like, well, we have I have 4 parents I know of for sure that would be willing to do it. We need 7. And I was talking to a teacher this afternoon. They said they would be interested, and they know 3 other teachers that would be interested. There are enough people to be interested, but the way it feels is that the district does not want us involved. They don't want the parents involved. They don't want the community involved. They don't want to be exposed for whatever it is they're doing or not doing. And the reality is we have a right to know. We are sending our kids to the school, and I feel like, to a degree, that I was, you know, gypped or shortchanged my kid. I mean, this is the rest of her future, my kid's future. I just want to know that I send my kid to school, and
your child is in what grade now?
she's a junior.
She's a junior. Is she tacking towards more education post high school?
Yes.
And do you feel that she's getting a quality education so that when she moves to the next step that she will be properly prepared for entry into college, or she is going to need remedial work to catch up?
No, remedial work for sure to catch up. Remedial, I mean, for sure. I mean, I had to use
whether it's
it.
a public institution or a private school, whether it's Conn College or Avery Point. I mean, it's different colleges have different expectations.
Yeah. Well, I just don't want her to go to college and be just not prepared, right? I want her. So, like, let me give another example. So we don't have study hall in New London. So if we don't have study hall, we don't give homework. When do kids learn how to make that time and put that effort towards independent study?
There's no homework?
No, there's no homework.
At any level?
No.
That's abominable. That's just.
Yeah. Well, they don't really have time to do much homework, right? Because they're doing all these after-school activities that take up all this time. So really, I think the ideal solution would be to have the study hall, right? If you have a study hall during the day, kids could do the work that they have to do and give them some work, some homework. I mean, even this year, the way the calendar's laid out is we have 3 weeks off for Christmas.
3 weeks.
3 weeks off for Christmas.
This is high school now, not
This is
college.
high school. 3 weeks off for Christmas, and then we come back for half of a week, and kids have midterms.
Midterms.
So they leave for 3 weeks, and then they come back for half a week, and then they're supposed to sit for their midterms. And the school's response, well, maybe they'll be studying in the 3 weeks off.
Who are they kidding? Even the smart kids won't be studying.
So again, but of course, if I'm the only parent that's there and raising my concerns and, being the squeaky wheel, nothing's going to change. We need more parents to come out. We need more parents to be involved. We need the school district to make it easier for parents to be involved. Start by putting the Board of Ed meetings online. Let them live online so people can go. Put a translation. If we know that more than a third of the population, English is not their first language, how come we don't have a translation happening at the bottom of the screen to translate for those parents that don't speak English? I mean, we're talking about making school accessible for multilingual learners and their families, but we don't make the Board of Education meetings accessible to them? There's something wrong with that.
Well, one thing I'm aware of is that academically the district is not meeting not just expectations, we're not meeting our benchmarks with this magnet district.
Right.
And I'm not sure if the state has started to withhold funds because we're not meeting that, number one, or if we're not meeting the goals and benchmarks regarding students from out of district to qualify for the additional funding, which this whole thing is about. And if we're not, what's going on here? And nobody talks about this.
Well, we're every year we get an exemption, so we don't meet the numbers, and then we apply with the state for an exemption. But it's not guaranteed. But
no, it's not. But but the state has dumped a pile of dough into New London and buildings, and for the magnet school program. It's kind of like one of these that's too big to fail. The state has bumped so much dough in here that they can't afford to withhold funds because then they're embarrassed. They got egg on their face that the thing is failing.
Right. Well, and then who does it impact though, right? It impacts the same community of people that it was intended to help, right?
And if you're living in one of our neighboring communities, what incentive is there to come to New London for this magnet school district if it's not performing?
That's right.
And stay home.
Listen, we went to experience the band in East Lyme, and I tell you, it is so sad that partnership came to an end this season. And but being over there, and I know I shouldn't be comparing East Lyme to New London, but just the difference in being in a school that is well managed, that is well staffed, that is funded. Right, it is a different community. It is a different funding mechanism. It's only for the residents of East Lyme, right? There's a lot of other factors that come into that. But the dysfunction of New London schools is just, it has to change. It has to change. I cannot believe that we are still continuing to run the district in this way. I can't understand it. I just can't understand it. It is very...
And it was only just a few years ago that our band was performing so well that they were invited to participate, I believe it was in the Memorial Day parade in Washington, D.C., which is a pretty heady stuff.
Right.
And how it's fallen off the cliff almost less than months later.
Right.
Unbelievable. I mean, my Kiwanis Club was proud to have sponsored a small part of that trip to Washington. I think we got their uniforms buffed up a little bit so they'd look sharp.
That's right. Because they had been sitting in storage forever, and they were just in no condition to be worn. And we so appreciated that. I mean, that experience for the kids was something that,
And that's the kind of stuff that you should be striving for.
Right. But, when you get rid of the arts pathway director, right? So they got rid of the arts pathway director, well, the assistant director. They felt that we didn't need one anymore. And now we have the STEM director managing all the pathways. And if you're not well versed in that area, you're just not going to be the best for the job. And so the district can blame it on flat funding or no budget, but clearly some parts of the school district have funds, and they're using their funds as they see fit. But then in other areas, we have teachers that aren't getting paid or aren't getting supplies or have no budget for their classrooms, and really just, so again, it comes down to we just need management. But if we just had school governance councils like we're required to have, I feel like some of this would be, and it would take some of the burden off the district. I mean, let some parents and some teachers that are really committed to seeing the school do better. We have a shared goal. We want the best for the students. It's not about a war. It's not about who's doing right and who's doing wrong. It's about how can we do this better together. That is the goal. But if nobody wants to, it feels like there's something illegal happening at the administrative or district level that does not allow for us to, do what needs to get done. And, I guess I can't be the only person that's digging into that, but. I am.
Well,
Seems like I am.
It's challenging. I mean, I know that I had a neighbor years ago who had children that went through the New London school system. They started at Nathan Hale, and they went through 12. But the mother of this family was very, very, very active every step of the way in their kids' 2 daughters' education, to ensure that they were getting the absolute max that was being offered. And if there was something that was supposed to be being done and it wasn't, she made sure that it got done. But she was looking out, and she was never interested in running for office. She was just looking out to see that her kids got full benefit of the New London education. Where, you know, the educational system could turn around and say, well, we've got students that go to Coast Guard or Temple or other fine institutions, Ivy League schools. I mean, the Roman boys that went to Yale, played football down there. I mean, the opportunity is there, but the parenting is, I mean, they're right there to make sure that their kids are not being shortchanged one iota.
Right.
And that's not to say necessarily that the New London district at any point is maximizing all of the opportunities that some of our neighboring school districts may offer their kids.
Right.
But if our kids can get to here, there are parents that want them there. And they'll work their tails off to see that they get that and maybe a little bit extra, or maybe, you know, Old Lyme, maybe they're up here or something. And we don't offer some of those opportunities for the students. It's a hard task, and this slippage in the district is not recent. This has been going on for decades, where it's been, and you don't see it coming back.
Well, listen, every year, I was going through all of the budgets. Every year, we have less students in the district. And every year, the budget goes up drastically. We have less schools open because we closed down Harbor. So we have less schools open, but our budget keeps going up at an exceeding rate. How is that?
Well, the excuse is that the state law mandates that every year school budgets have to go up a certain percentage, irrelevant to any of that stuff. And that's what it does. We've exhausted an hour. Do you know that?
I can't believe it's already over.
It is.
It goes by so fast.
And I hope you've enjoyed our conversation, and I would encourage folks that are watching or listening, you certainly are able to call in future programs and get involved, ask questions, offer your thoughts. This lovely young lady here, she's terrific. We need more parents like her in the schools, challenging what's going on here. And you really do. And if you'd like to come on the program, let me know. But in any event, for tonight, thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
And we'll have you back soon, because you're a good guest, and I enjoy having these conversations, and maybe we can get somebody energized.
All right, sounds good.
All righty. You're watching City Focus. We'll see you, actually next week's the day before Thanksgiving, so we'll be running a rerun. Not sure which one yet, but there'll be a program, and we'll be back live in December. Good night.